Hi, it's me, Jazzy. I'm back with another tech-related video, and today we're looking at a very useful product indeed. Now, this is hot tweezers, which can also be used single-sided as a soldering iron. Now, this is a product from Sequre Technology Co. Limited, and they have very kindly sent me one to take a look at. This is the HT140 Hot Tweezers and Soldering Iron. So, let's open the box and see what we've got. Now, I've been looking at hot tweezers for a little while now because they seem very useful for doing surface mount repairs, removing ICs and things from boards. These seem quite unique in that you can use them single-sided as a soldering iron as well as hot tweezers. So this seems like something that's going to come in real handy. Now, comes in a nice looking case inside, which is shrink wrapped for freshness. Love that. Right, there we go. Very premium looking case with the Sequre logo on the front there. What do we get inside the case? Well, let's have a look. Oh, okay, loads of goodies in here. Very nicely packed. So here we have the star of the show, the hot tweezers. This is the HT140. Seems very nicely made. Seems to sit very nicely in the hand. You've got a nice rubber grip on the side there. That's important so you don't slip and catch something while you're soldering or desoldering. There's a load of cool features on this that we'll get into in a sec. What else do we get in the case? Now, we've also got a 65-watt power supply here. So I think that just slots in. It does come with the UK plug, which is a bonus. There we go. That just slots in nice and easy. And you've got USB-A and USB-C on there. You've also got a stand here, which I will say has got a fair bit of weight to it. That's solid metal construction, this one. Quite a nice solid stand. It's got a rubber base on the bottom, so it's not going to move about on your workbench. Okay. And it's really nice that it comes in this little case as well. So you've got the whole kit in here. Looks like it comes with pretty much everything. So we've got a cable here, USB-C to C. Always love to see USB-C cables. What else do we have in here? We have a little QR code here to scan to get the manual. Okay, we've got some other little accessories here as well, which we'll dig into in a moment. So there we go, very nicely presented in the kit. Now, I can't wait to give these a try, so let's get them hooked up and get over on the bench. Okay, let's have a closer look and get this set up. I really quite like this case, it's rather nice. So this power brick, this is a real beast, isn't it? So you've got power delivery 65-watt USB-C, and you've got QC 3.0, 65 watts. What's the specs on this then? There you go. As you can see, it's got a lot going for it, this power brick. Pretty impressive specs on it. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Supports PD and QC up to 65 watts. Right, that's chunky. There's a bit of weight to that. Now then, the stand, love the stand. Really solid bit of chunk, and I think we've got some more bits in here to assemble the stand, so do that in one sec. I've got to say about this cable though, how chunky is this? USB-C to C and supports PD 3.1. That's a pretty chunky cable. Feels like it's got like a silicone coating on it, quite nice. But yeah, that's a chunk. Love that. We've got a QR code in here to download the manual. That looks pretty handy. And then we've got the star of the show, the HT140. It's really quite cool, that. Quite like the feel of that. Well, we're going to get to grips with this in a sec. I'm going to find some old boards that we can harvest some surface mount components off. All right, let's open up the QR code for the manual. Nice that it's sealed for freshness. I'm not sure my phone will scan through the plastic bag. Right, let's give it a go. There you go, straight away. Open in Safari. It's definitely doing something. Here we go. Ah, instructions of HT140 Hot Tweezers. Oh, that's pretty cool. Look, you've got all the product parameters on there. How to use the menu. Oh, it's pretty comprehensive then. And all you've got to do is scan the QR code and you get this. You haven't got to hunt for it. Goes into all the detail, how to take the tips off. Can't imagine you'd want to change them that often once you've got these set to what you're going to need. Firmware upgrades, how to assemble the stand. All right, pretty comprehensive instruction manual. So, okay, let's get this hooked up then. We've got to get the stand built first. Looks pretty easy. We've got a bit of a sponge going on and a tiny little pixie screwdriver. Lovely. Okay, that's the bracket. Oh, looks like we've got some spares. We've got a little tiny Allen key and screws for the stand, and also can just about see in there tiny little grub screws. So what they've done is they've given you spares for these, so when you're changing the tips, if you lose these down the side of your bench or anywhere, which I'm bound to do, you've got some spares. That's cool. I love that. Right, it's the little touches. So let's put the stand together. Now it looks like there's multiple threaded holes here, so I think you can probably have this in different configurations. So you could have it like that. I guess like that is how I would want to have it, I should think. But you could have it sideways if you desire. You could have it like that, or even like that, I guess. So yeah, I'm going to go for that. Pretty conventional. So we've got to get the two screws out. We've actually two little Allen keys. Look at that. Okay. I love it, always love it when a manufacturer gives you spare bits, because they know that you're going to lose bits, because that always happens. So let's get these in. Let's try the little pixie screwdriver. Does it work? Well, it does actually. All right. Okay. Saves me having to find a screwdriver. Again, nice touch. Included little goodies. Always love an extra. Anything you get that's extra, always love that. Right. Okay. There we go. And we have our little stand. Pretty simple. Tweezers go in. Okay. Oh, it's actually got like a little rubber surface there to grip the tweezers as you put them in. Again, another nice little touch. It's nice that they've thought about these things. So yeah, just goes in nice and easy. And when that's in there, look, that's not really going to go anywhere. That's pretty solid. And because you've got a bit of a weight to that base, and you've got rubber on the bottom of that base, that's really going nowhere. That's quite cool. Quite like that. It's got a nice feel, isn't it? Nice clink when you put it in. I like that. And the power options continue, because you've got a DC barrel jack here, max 28 volts, and you've got the USB-C, which supports power delivery 3.0 and 3.1. Just gets better and better, doesn't it? Okay, it looks very professional. We'll say that. Okay, I reckon it's time to get this hooked up then. Right, I cannot get over this cable. This is so decent. Obviously, if you want to give it more juice, you can use the barrel jack, good old bench power supply, or make your own power supply. And you can put in up to 28 volts on that. But this 65 watt power brick should give us enough juice to run this. So let's plug in. There we go. Plug this in. There we go. Nice clear display. It's really clear. There we go. Now it's going up. 250 degrees, 3 amps, 19.6 volts it's pulling. Okay, so here we've got the actual temperature of the tweezers. This is the temperature you've got it set to. So short press here to change the temperature up, and short press here to go down. So you go down to 50, it goes up in 50-degree increments. So 100 degrees, 150, 200. See, it heats up pretty fast, considering this is just power delivery coming through a USB-C. 300, 350, 400, 450, 500. There we go. 500 degrees max. That's pretty impressive for a device that's just running off a USB-C. I will say the cable's not getting hot. The body of the tweezers is not getting particularly hot. And this says work, so it'll either say work or sleep or stop, depending on what it's doing, and it'll show you if there's any errors or anything there as well. So pretty simple. A long press on this one, you can see it's changed to stop now. Turns it off. Long press again, changes that to work. Now on this one, a long press takes it into menu, as you can see, HT, idle, OLED, volt, calibration, and about. So that you can change there your temperature step. So if you don't want it to step up in amounts of 50 degrees, you can change that. So you have got a few options that you can change there. You can change the sleep time or the sleep temperature. So OLED, you can change the brightness of the OLED screen on that. Got some calibration there. We probably won't get into that, but you can, there you go, you can calibrate it. Goes into real detail in the instruction manual how you can use all these functions. Right, so let's have a go, shall we? Let's see what we can do with this. So let me grab a scrap board here that I've got with some surface mount stuff on it. See if we can get some of these little packages off of here. These tips are they're almost touching, just not quite. So that should be enough to get the smallest of surface mount packages off. There we go. Look at that. Got that little one off. Let's have a go with this one here. There you go. Lift it off. You just need to give it a few seconds on there to lift it off. Of course, you could put some flux on. I reckon that'll help. Alright, let's see if I can get this capacitor off then. Let's give it a little bit of flux. See if that helps. I mean, worst comes to the worst, you could just put a bit of leaded solder on there. It's obviously lower melting point than unleaded. Yeah, straight off. Look at that. Just a little bit of flux just makes that so much quicker. Alright. Let's try one of these really tiny little capacitors. So small I can barely see it. Right, so we go with one of these transistors. Try something a bit more adventurous. One of these 3-pin jobbies. See what we can do with this, shall we? I mean, I'm only set on 400 degrees and this is just running off the USB-C to that 65-watt power brick. There we go. And that's off. The stand's quite cool. It's solid enough to not keep moving about. And it fits in quite nice. It gives you a reassuring feeling of that's in there, it's not going anywhere. You have got this turbo mode. If you press both buttons, you can preset that temperature. It's going to 280 now, but you could preset that to something else. So this cable, I've got to say, I'm really impressed with this USB cable. It's got a silicone coating, resistant to 500 degrees apparently, and it will take 240 watts, and it's 1.5 meters, so you've got plenty of cable length on there. That's pretty cool. The other thing I like is the fact that it wakes up like my soldering iron does. You can see it's in sleep mode now. If I take it out of the stand, straight away it goes to work and it's back up to temperature. So just like most of my soldering irons, that's another cool handy little feature that I like. You haven't got to pick it up and then go, oh, is it on? You can see it says work there, which is quite cool actually, because the amount of times I pick up my regular soldering iron, of course you've got no indication is it on or not. Then you realise it's gone to sleep. So this is quite handy, quite like that. The other great thing about this arrangement is if you're working out in the field, if you're not in your workshop or your lab or whatever, you can actually run this off if you've got a power bank that supports power delivery, or even a LiPo battery. So you could use this like away from the bench. Now the other thing that I did mention in the intro was the fact that you can turn off one side and just use it as a soldering iron. So if you are out in the field and you've only got this, you could actually use this to resolder a component as well as taking components off the board. And you can get that through the menu. So you go into the HT menu, scroll down, you've got LR select. Long press on that so you can select left, right, or left and right. So you can have it as just the left tweezer, just the right tweezer, or left and right. If you wanted to use just one as just a soldering iron, but I think for just a quick bit of solder, you can just turn it around and do it if you want to just quickly solder something in. But you could certainly use it as just a soldering iron if you needed to. If you needed to put something in real quick. Again, if you're out in the field and you've only got this, it's certainly enough that if you needed to do a quick solder job, you could. So yeah, you can go in the menu and turn one of these off, but if you're working between desoldering and soldering, it's certainly enough that you could just solder a couple of bits in. It would be enough to do the job. If you've only got that with you and you just need to put something in quickly, you could certainly do that. But definitely its strength is in removing tiny surface mount components. Let's try and put this little one back in. Get that back in. There you go. Lovely. So yeah, pretty handy for taking components off and even for putting components back on the board. But this is great. I could see this would be great for like tablet repairs, mobile phone repairs, that sort of thing. But just taking off a small surface mount resistor like that's pretty instant. It'll do that, and it's even with the larger packages like this capacitor here, straight off, boom, no problem, no problem. Once you get the technique for it, just needs a few seconds on there, and that's just easy. I mean, yeah, you can do it with the heat gun. As we've seen, the heat gun's really effective, but you've always got the risk of melting components around you, especially if you're working near something like these. You don't want to be melting these plastic components. That's all too easy to do with the heat gun. You can get in there quite nicely with these. If you needed to get that resistor out right next to the plastic, there you go. That's pretty darn good. Even like these transistors and stuff, these 3-pin jobbies, not a problem. With larger tips, you can get all sorts of different tips for this. So the working temperature on this is from 5 to 500 degrees centigrade. That's 122 to 932 Fahrenheit. Reckons it can melt the solder within 2 seconds. I guess that's dependent on your solder. Options for powering this are many, as we've seen. Supports power delivery 2, 3 and 3.1. Supports QC 2 and 3 and DC barrel jack up to 28 volts. Because you've got USB-C, you can use this connection to upgrade the firmware if required in future as well. And then, of course, it's pretty easy if you do need to change the tips. So I need to stop for a minute. If you do need to change the tips, you've got the 2 little Allen keys supplied, and there is 4 little screws. So you've got one top and bottom and one left and right. So there's 4 little screws on each one to change the tips. So depending on the type of surface mount packages that you're going to be removing with these, you might want to put some different tips. So you can get plenty of different tips for this. So the great thing is this is compatible with the standard C210 soldering tips and C120 Hot Tweezers cartridges. So you can change these tips to match whatever kind of surface mount packages you're wanting to desolder or solder. This is going to be really handy for working on motherboards as well, because if you need to get in somewhere difficult in here and you don't want to disturb the components around you, because it's so easy to accidentally pull another component off the board when you don't want to. With this, I like these fine tips. These fine tips are going to be really good for stuff like this, because you can get right in there. It's just literally a few seconds and that's off. Look at that. Doesn't take long, and as we've seen, a bit of flux will help. A bit of leaded solder would help as well. All right, we've seen a bit of flux can help, so let's try a little bit of leaded solder, shall we? There we go. Yeah, straight off. Yeah, see, it makes all the difference, doesn't it? Just a little bit of leaded solder on there, or a bit of flux, and that's straight off. Yeah, like that's almost instant. That's amazing. Let's go again. A little bit of leaded solder. Yeah, yeah. Straight off, straight away, no messing. I've never used hot tweezers before, but now I'm going to wonder how I ever managed without them. That's actually really cool. I'd say for working on surface mount stuff, these are really handy. They've got these on the Sequre website for $99. So they're not a huge amount of money. And I just think it's a really useful thing to have on the side of your bench. If you're likely to do any surface mount stuff like I do, sometimes you might want to work on a board from a tablet or something. All these little tiny packages that are really hard to see, it's so easy to damage surrounding components with too much heat. Okay, you're going to need to use a heat gun or hot tweezers with a big tip to get some of these larger chips off the board. But if you just need to replace surface mount components like capacitors, resistors, that sort of stuff, it's just so easy. As you've seen, they make taking off surface mount components really easy, and you can put surface mount components back, and you can even do a little bit of soldering with it. And the power options are great. They're all pretty flexible. It feels really nice to use, and the fact that it uses those C210 tips, that's really handy as well. Now, our lovely friends at Sequre have given us a discount code for our lovely viewers. So have a look in the video description down below for the discount code that you can use if you want to order yourself a pair of these HT140 Hot Tweezers. I can't really find much to fault with it. I think it's a really cool little gadget. The only observation I'd make on it is a little bit fiddly changing the tips, but really that's not even a gripe, because you wouldn't really need to change the tips that often. And the fact that they've given you some spare grub screws in the packet, that's absolutely fair enough. They're just really handy for those little bits and bobs. As I say, if you're working near something that's meltable, as I like to call it, like those little plastic brackets and components and stuff, you can just delve in with this and grab a component off. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with these, as you can tell. So these are going to be part of my bench setup, and I'll be using these long term, so I can report back how they're going. And you're probably going to see them in some of my up and coming videos, because I can see these coming in very handy. So many thanks to Sequre for sending those over. Really enjoyed taking a look at the HT140. Now, as always, massive thanks to everyone for watching, sharing, liking, commenting and subscribing. It's always massively appreciated. And I'll be back soon with some more tech related videos. In the meantime, take care, and I'll see you on the next one.